Hello. I have something to read to you today. What we need to do is create a system that is consistent, efficient, and focused. One that works to ensure that we are improving outcomes. One that puts voices front and center. One that shifts resources from the boardroom. I could be talking about anything, but you get the gist. Let's centralize the control. This is from a right-wing government. Now, right-wing governments should be at least consistent, I think, in how they're going to try and screw you up. So what am I talking about? Your school boards are going to be abolished. All of them in Manitoba. Why? Well, the whole goal, really, is simple. Cut the cost of the teachers. Make their lives hard. The old expensive ones will leave and go work for somewhere like Midas Muffler or something because it's an easier job. The young ones will enter because they need a job. And in between times, who's going to suffer? Your kids. Yeah. And we're going to lose the best of the bunch in the teachers as they go. Or keep the worst. Because, of course, when there's a union in place, there's a system called bumping. When somebody gets laid off, maybe at the top end, because they have what's called gray time, there's a principle called bumping. And you can bump the next lowest person who can bump someone below them until you get down to the bottom and you push them off. Are we really fixing anything? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Let's centralize. Let's control. Well, there is something to be said for that. Like if you were buying notebooks in large bundles or supplies, fine, but you're not. That doesn't happen anymore. You do that. Yeah, didn't used to happen when I was a kid. I went to school, I gave them my 5 cents or 10 cents or whatever, it was some small amount, and they handed us all our supplies. There was none of this $300 shopping trips to Staples to buy school supplies every fall. That is absurd. It never used to happen. And when I needed a new notebook in the middle of the year, I took a nickel out of my pocket, went to the little hatch at the office, put it down, and they gave me a new notebook. I didn't have to go to the store. The store was in the school. Well, things like that come and go, right? And we had a particularly well-to-do organization in terms of a school board where I lived as a child. So, it was all nominal. Now, where are we today? Well, we're having lived through a period of decentralization by the Conservative government of 1997. And what am I talking about? The biggest line item in the entire expense of every province is healthcare, 50%. And in 1997, the year that Barney Scissorhands, also known as Brian Pallister, also known as Mr. Premier, decided to go into federal politics out of provincial Manitoba politics. His boss then, Gary Filmon, a conservative, told us that we would be much better off if we got rid of centralized control of healthcare and created regional health boards. So the Manitoba Regional Health Authorities were born. And today, all those school boards that have been around since before I was born, in fact, before my father was born, which is 1920 something, those boards are being abolished because our friend, the Premier, is trying to screw up the schools so he can find a way to cut the costs. Just like he did with the school bus drivers, who, by the way, got their raise 2 years retroactive. It was easy. They went to the Manitoba Labour Board. They stopped messing around. They stopped asking and negotiating. They just said, you take it. You tell us. And the Labour Board is charged with making decisions like that, and so did. And it's not what the Premier wanted. Is there really going to be anything valuable come out of this? Well, the only valuable thing is this. There won't be anyone for you to call on anymore. There won't be anybody for you to complain to. You'll have some hack who's appointed by his government running a department. And of course, if you dislike large government departments and you're conservative, because I know you do, I know you hate civil servants, does the idea of concentrating a bunch of highly paid civil servants to run education make sense to you? Does it sound like it's going to cost you money in taxes? I think it is, and I think you're going to hate it. And you're going to vote against it eventually? Or are you? Nah. If you're conservative, you'll probably always be conservative, and that's ridiculous. You see, Great-Grandpa didn't vote for the conservative party you vote for. Oh no, he voted for the party that wanted to do things like nationalize telecommunications. Yup, look it up, Halifax 1907 platform. Not what you think it is. Anyway, make up your mind. Is it centralize? Is it decentralize? What actually happens? What really works? Bigger bureaucracy? Smaller bureaucracy? More local bureaucracy? More distant bureaucracy? I can only say that the whole thing's a shell game, folks. So stop letting them play a stupid shell game. Focus on what matters, your kid getting a decent education. I'm going to give you a simple quote now, and I'm going to end it. Education is not altruism. When you get on the airplane from Winnipeg to Calgary, you want to know that the guy who's pumping gas into it can read a gauge. Because halfway to Calgary, you do not want that plane to run out of gas and cost you your life. I'm Patrick Stewart. I'm not conservative, and you ought not to be either.